She had dreamed of this moment since she was a child, when planes filled the sky above her small hometown. The roar of engines, the glint of sunlight on fuselage, the smell of fuel and rain-slicked tarmac, these sensations haunted her dreams and fueled her determination. Now, at 36, she was finally a commander, a role she had earned after years of study, training, and climbing the ranks as a meticulous and ambitious pilot. Yet the pride she felt was tempered by a knot of anxiety. The first flight as commander is a test of skill, composure, and leadership. But today, there was another test looming, one she could not fully anticipate. A co-pilot who doubted her every decision, not because of her skills, but because of her gender.
Please subscribe to Women Inspired channel.
The morning air at the airport was crisp, carrying the scent of jet fuel and asphalt. She moved with deliberate calm toward the aircraft, each step echoing in her mind like the ticking of a clock, counting down to the moment of judgment. Standing by the aircraft was the young co-pilot, barely a year into commercial aviation, but already confident and disturbingly skeptical. His eyes lingered on her uniform, the new stripes on her shoulders, and for a moment, she imagined him thinking, "We'll see if she's up to this." "Good morning, Commander," he said, voice neutral but clipped, hiding a trace of derision. His handshake was firm but calculated, as though testing her strength. She met his gaze and nodded once, concise, authoritative, signaling the beginning of a silent duel. The briefing room felt cramped with tension. Charts and weather maps spread across the table, but the real storm was human. The co-pilot's questions seemed innocent at first. "Do you think we should adjust our route to avoid the gusts over the coast?" Or, "Are you sure this approach is optimal given crosswinds?" On the surface, they were procedural queries, but she felt the unspoken challenge beneath each word, a subtle assertion that her judgment was not to be trusted. Her replies were calm, grounded in manuals and real-world experience, each explanation a demonstration of competence rather than argument. Yet the co-pilot's eyes never left her hands, never left her face, scanning for hesitation, scanning for a crack she had no intention of showing. Every muscle in her body was alert, yet every word measured to maintain composure. Boarding the plane brought another wave of subtle resistance. The flight attendants, professional but curious, cast glances her way. A whispered remark here, a questioning look there. Even the passengers, noticing the slight unease in the cockpit, unconsciously read her gender as a variable in her authority. She felt it, the weight of centuries of doubt and stereotype pressing invisibly against her shoulders like turbulence. Engines roared, the aircraft shuddered to life, and she taxied with precision, responding to the co-pilot's constant commentary. Each phrase he offered, phrased as advice or question, carried a hidden judgment. "I've seen this route done differently," he said casually, but the implication was unmistakable. She followed procedure, demonstrating control and experience, but the tension simmered, palpable in every corner of the cockpit. As the plane climbed into a sky brushed with clouds like streaks of silver and gray, she sensed the brewing storm ahead, not only in the weather forecast, but in human behavior. The co-pilot recounted anecdotes of male commanders, highlighting their decisiveness, their instincts, insinuating that she might lack the same natural authority. She listened, letting each word pass, focusing instead on instruments, wind calculations, and the subtle sway of the aircraft. Hours into the flight, the storm arrived. Crosswinds battered the fuselage, and turbulence rocked the cabin violently. The co-pilot's commentary grew sharper, his challenges more pointed. "We should divert. The standard approach isn't safe with winds this strong." His tone suggested he doubted her competence at the core. She responded with a calm authority that concealed the adrenaline pumping through her veins, outlining her plan to handle the crosswinds, step by step, explaining her reasoning and demonstrating mastery. He hesitated, wanting to argue, to take control, but she held the cockpit's rhythm. Her voice, steady and commanding, cut through the storm. "Follow my lead. Trust the instruments. We're going to land safely." Seconds stretched into eternity. Passengers clutched armrests, and cabin attendants whispered reassurances that were themselves tempered by awe and fear. Minutes later, the runway emerged through the storm clouds, a wet glint of asphalt beckoning. She executed the landing flawlessly, wheels touching with impeccable timing, engines sighing to idle. The silence of perfect execution was punctuated by tentative applause from the cabin. Relief and triumph mingled, yet the true challenge was far from over. In the debriefing room, the co-pilot attempted to frame her actions as reckless in his report. She remained professional, submitting precise, data-backed documentation that revealed her decisions were entirely sound. Her composure, even in the face of this subtle undermining, earned the respect of the airline's senior operations team. But the story didn't end there. The weeks that followed were filled with increasingly challenging flights, longer international routes, diverse crews, and even more skeptical colleagues. Every encounter was an opportunity to demonstrate competence, patience, and leadership. The co-pilot, once openly dismissive, gradually became a diligent partner, learning to respect her authority and expertise. She mentored him and others, teaching not only technical skills, but the nuances of managing human dynamics under pressure. Alongside the professional trials, her private moments were expanded with reflection, training, and preparation. She reviewed flight manuals late at night, performed simulator runs, and visualized emergency scenarios. Flashbacks to her first solo flight, her early struggles in aviation school, and moments of subtle prejudice she had overcome reinforced her resilience. Throughout all this, she navigated the unspoken rules of gender bias in a male-dominated field, casual assumptions about her capabilities, offhand remarks from ground crew, the skeptical gaze of passengers, and her own internalized doubt. Each flight became a testament to patience, skill, and endurance. Months later, she was invited to lead a seminar on crosswind landings and cockpit management. The same co-pilot, now seasoned under her guidance, sat among the trainees. She demonstrated approaches, explained contingency plans, and shared strategies for maintaining calm and authority in the cockpit. Her lessons were not about ego or triumph. They were about mastery, precision, and dignity. By the end of the session, even the most skeptical participants, including her former doubter, nodded in quiet acknowledgement. Her story extended beyond the cockpit. She became a mentor for young female pilots entering the field, sharing experiences, strategies, and encouragement. Her flights were no longer just journeys between airports. They became living examples of competence, courage, and perseverance. Every turbulent crossing, every challenging landing, every skeptical glance became a thread in a tapestry of resilience. In quiet moments, she reflected on the journey from a newly promoted commander to a respected leader. She understood the weight of prejudice, the subtle undermining of authority, and the pressure of expectation. But she also understood her own strength, forged through experience, tempered by challenge, and proven in the skies above violent crosswinds. The final scene of each flight was always the same: a smooth landing, the hum of the engines calming, passengers disembarking safely, and her, alone in the cockpit, breathing deeply, knowing that every decision, every ounce of composure, and every moment of courage had brought her closer to mastery. She had earned her place in the skies, not by silencing doubters, but by soaring above them with skill, grace, and unwavering resolve.